computers don't have Blender on them to start with, so you'll have to sign in to, well, not sign in, but start Firefox or another miscellaneous browser of your choosing. And you will go to blender.org/download. I wrote it on the board, so you have no excuse. Then you'll want to choose Mac OS X and just click the 64-bit. It should download in less than 2 minutes. "25 seconds. Are you having trouble? No? All right. You just use the same login you should have for your student portal. Try a different computer. You brought a laptop just in case, right?
I did, but it's already dead.
Oh, lovely.
I just started to look 6 minutes ago. It died.
Is anyone else having trouble signing in? Roland? Okay.
Okay.
Usually if you try a different computer, sometimes that'll fix it.
Try this one then.
You're a current student here, right?
Yes.
Okay, just checking that. Because that could be an issue.
Alright. I'm not using a Mac middle school.
Yeah, you'll pick it up quick.
Yeah, okay, I was just saying.
So you're in?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I
So-
thought you could just download it from Steam. No?
Well, these computers don't have Steam, so.
Oh, yes. Okay, where is it?
If you go to the upper right corner, there's this magnifying glass thing. You can just type in the name of the program you want. So you could do Firefox, Chrome, Safari.
Wow, this thing's so sweet.
Who here has never used a 3D program before? Okay, so we have a couple of beginners. So I'll make sure we're going to keep this a little slow and beginner friendly. So if this is too slow for you, sorry. We'll have more workshops that are more advanced later in the semester. Absolutely. Unity, any engine. A great thing about Blender is it's completely free to use. You don't need any software licensing. It's whatever you create is yours. You can just use it wherever, commercial or not. I was gonna leave it. That's really awkward. Oh, real quick, if your mouse is slower than you'd like, one thing you could do, and we'll have to make sure this is all set anyway because we'll have to have certain mouse commands. Go to your taskbar here and go to System Preferences and click on Mouse right here. Make sure you have these buttons set so it says primary button on the left, secondary button on the right, and button 3 on the middle button. And you can change your tracking speed if your mouse is too slow, so you can drag it up and down.
Here we go.
Everyone downloading or? So once you have it downloaded, it'll give you this zip file right here, Blender 2.7c OSX. All you do is double click it and it will extract the file and give you the Blender folder, from which you can just directly launch Blender. And if it gives you this screen, just say open.
Yeah, I probably have to update mine. Probably.
Update. It should be.
On my laptop.
Yeah.
It does not have that.
Is everyone all caught up? Cool. So this is the defaults. If you click to get rid of the splash screen, this is the default screen for Blender. A lot of people get thrown off by the complexity of the UI because it acts a lot different from Maya or other packages that you might be used to. So we're going to cover the beginnings of how to navigate this user interface. So you have each of these windows right here. This is the main one. The biggest part of the screen right here is your 3D navigator. So this is where most of your time is going to be spent. And to rotate it, you hold down the middle mouse button. If you want to move around you can always adjust your windows here. You can just move the mouse between them, drag the sizes around. You might have to do that to access properties and just have a wider workspace where you want it. This right here, this list, this is your scene manager, where this lists all of the objects in your scene. And you can see that you have these 3 defaults here that gives you a camera, a cube, and a lamp. If you want more screens, you can always create more. If you see these 3 little dashes right here in the upper right corner, you can drag that, and it will create a whole new screen for you to work with. And you can set this to any kind of screen that you want. If you click this little drop down right here at the lower left corner of this window. In some of these, it's in the upper left, so you'll just have to watch out and see which side it's on. Yeah. So I'm just going to reset it. So these 3 dashes right here, you just click that, hold the mouse button, drag it to the left, and you get a whole new window right there. And the lower left, you can choose what kind of window you want. If you want it to be in a big outliner, maybe property window. That's what this is right here. So you already got the outliner and the property window by default. You can get a UV image editor when we get into UVs. That's going to be the next workshop, so I won't get into that too heavy. And then you might decide that you don't want these extra windows because they're taking up valuable real estate here. So to get rid of them, all you do is the opposite of what you did to create them. Just click this and drag it toward the window you want to close. And you can either close that window or you can drag it to the other side and close the first window. I'm just going to get rid of the one that I created. What we have at the bottom here is the timeline. This is really useful when you get into animation. We're not going to do animation in this today, in this workshop, so for the sake of saving space, I'm going to close this one on mine. Gives us a little more space to work in. This is on the left side of your screen here, you have the toolbar. And this has useful different commands and properties that you can access. We're going to mainly stay in the tools right here, possibly, and go into create. So these 2 are going to be the main that we use. But most of the time, we're not going to want this on the screen when we're busy with the 3D model. So you can toggle that by pressing T on your keyboard. Make it pop up or go away. Then hidden on the right side of the screen, there's another toolbar. If you tap N, that gives you a property window. This is where certain properties like the size, the location, rotation of your object is. When you have an object selected, it gives you the data for that object. And you can press N to toggle it. So I'm just going to keep that closed, reopen my toolbar for right now. So you have your default scene here. To select things, you're going to use your right mouse button, which may be different from what you're used to in most programs. But Blender has its own workflow because it likes to be different. To mess with these, if you want to move them or rotate them, the basic commands, the first one is the grab tool, which will move it across your screen. If you select this cube and press G, it will move it along where you have the axis of the screen. If you want to move this along like in a straight line, like say along this y-axis right here, you tap the key for that axis. So the y-axis, you tap Y on your keyboard, and then it locks it to the y-axis. And you can switch it. Hit X, move it up and back and forth here. Z moves it up and down. And then if you want to move this in the X and Y, just move it along the plane without moving it up and down, you hold down the Shift key and then tap Z, and then it moves just in X and Y. And you can do that for any axes. You move the tool, hit Shift X, it moves in everything but X. Want to be careful not to send it like way off into space where you can't find it later. If you right-click when you have something translated, it'll cancel that translation and put it back in the default or where it was before. You can tap R for the rotate tool, and that will rotate it facing whatever direction you want to move it to. To move it, if you tap Z, that'll move it like that. And you can just tap the key you want on the axis you want it to rotate on. Same as the move tool, just tap whatever axis you want. You have a question? I heard an Okay. And then finally we have the scale tool. You just tap S, and it will embiggen your object. You just move your mouse left and right to adjust it. I'm going to hit Command Z to cancel out of that. We have these three objects that the scene starts you with. I don't like them. We might not need them, so I'm going to tap A twice. The first time it deselects whatever you have selected, and then with nothing selected, when you tap A again, it selects everything in your scene. And I'm going to delete those because we don't want Blender's handouts. We're just going to make objects as we need them. So if you have your cube selected, you tap A. That'll unselect everything. And then with nothing selected, tap A again. That selects everything. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to stop me.
So once you select them, just hit delete.
You can hit delete, or you can hit X. Either one will delete everything that you have selected. So once I have this clear screen here, I am going to go on the left side. You see the Create tab right here. Click on that. I want to give myself back a cube. And then I have just this cube that I want to start out with. Oh, one more thing. If you did left click at any point, you'll see this little icon, this little life preserver thing that'll move across the screen. That is your 3D cursor. And what Blender uses that for is basically like the cursor in Microsoft Word. Wherever you click, that's where it creates objects. And you can manually adjust where that is. But most of the time, you're just going to want that in the center of the scene. So to reset that, if you moved it, just hit Shift-C. And that will recenter your view and move the cursor to the center. So what I want to start out with is using the skills that I just showed you. I'm going to take a bunch of boxes and just build a real quick kind of office thing. So I want this to be the floor. I'm going to scale that in the z-axis to make it flat. And then scale it with Shift-Z to move it in X and Y and just make it bigger. So I have this box right here to act as my floor. Okay. You see the, do you have your toolbar open if you use T? So under that, you can click this Create tab right here. And then from that Create tab, you can select Cube. But even better than Cube, since I'm making a floor, I'm going to not use the cube, and I'm just going to use a grid, which is a two-dimensional object. It doesn't have, I don't have to flatten it because it's already flat. It's just one face right here. So I'm going to scale that, make it about match what my default grid is. And then I'm going to create cubes and play around with these other shapes to create, kind of put a desk, a bookshelf, just play around with it and try to create a basic office. Are you looking for the Blender workshop? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, take a seat. We can catch you up if you need to. If you want a shortcut to create objects, if you hit Shift-A, you will get this menu right here that's basically the same as your Create menu, but it has a nice little pop-up here so you don't have to have your toolbar open. So I can go to the Mesh menu, pick a cube, exactly the same as creating it from the toolbar. If you have something that you want to duplicate, say you already made one leg for the desk, you don't want to make another. With that leg selected, all you do is hit Shift-D, and that will duplicate the object. And then you can hit the X-axis to move it over and just slap it down where you want it. We're doing this mostly so you can get practice just creating objects and moving them around. If you were making this for a game, you would not build it this way, so just keep that in mind. I've got a really simple desk here, so I'm going to recenter my cursor, and then I'm going to start on a bookshelf. Yes. You, with it selected, you hit Shift-D. Oh, try tapping Z, see if that fixes it. If you hit Z, that'll switch you to the outline view. That's really useful if you're building a complex object and want to see individual parts of it. But for just right now, we're just working in the shaded view.
How do you move the camera here?
You hold down the middle mouse button. What's that?
So which the cameras look easier to move. Yeah, how do you move the side to side?
Oh, panning it.
Yeah.
You hold down Shift and then hold down the middle mouse button, and that will give you the ability to pan your camera. And if your camera's just like all wonky and you don't know where it is, oh, you can always hit Shift C to recenter it.
Thank you.
So you would Shift Home.
Wait, so you're supposed to click the middle mouse button to move the camera around?
Yeah, you hold down the middle mouse button. Yes?
Is there a way to like select multiple objects?
Yes. If you want to select multiple objects, start by selecting one, hold down the Shift key, and then select the other objects that you want to choose. So I can, in 4 clicks, I can select all these desk parts, and they move as one object. Maybe I want to rotate this a little, because maybe it's a messy office.
How do you copy again?
Shift D.
How do you paste?
It automatically creates it.
Oh. Oh, right. No.
Oh, you can do Command C, Command V, if you wanted to.
Right. Command D. Huh. Oh,
I'm sorry?
You say B or B?
V.
Okay, so it's the same right
That.
there. Yeah.
All I can do with my camera right now is just zoom in and zoom out.
Then I click it.
You might have a bad mouse. We'll see.
Or you change your settings.
Can I see it? So we're going to just check the settings, make sure it's on.
So I want to move all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, oh, you have to set it
Down.
button 3 right there. Make sure.
Okay, so how do I-
OS X has it turned off by default for some reason. All you do is, yep. What was your name? You with the mouse?
William.
William. So William's problem was his middle mouse wasn't working, and we fixed it. But if you were to have a problem like that, or if you had a mouse that just doesn't have a middle mouse button, you do have the option to change that in the settings where you can use the Alt key. So if you wanted to set that up, you could go to File, User Preferences, which the shortcut for that is just Command, comma. I like to use that. And then go under Input, and you check this click box, and this is optional if you don't want to mess with this, but check Emulate 3-button mouse, and what that will let you do, you hit Save User Settings, then close it. That will let you hold down the Alt key and use the left mouse button, and that works exactly the same as middle clicking. And to pan with that, you hold the Alt key and the Shift key and the left mouse button. I like to just use the middle mouse button, personal preference. But if you prefer to hold down Alt and use the left key, you can set that up. So I'm going to turn my Emulate 3-button mouse back off just in case it messes with something. Yes. Yeah, you just hit, if you want to say move it up and down, you just tap Z on the keyboard. And if you want the opposite of that, where it moves along the grid but not up and down, you hit Shift Z. Oops, that's the wrong thing. G, Shift Z. Is that clear to you guys? I've got a basic desk and bookshelf. I think I'm going to put some things on there. Maybe I want a monkey head. Because every office needs a monkey head. If you'll notice, you might it looks, you can see like all these. Why won't it scroll out? I might have a bad mouse, but it looks faceted. You can see all these squares on it. If you want to turn that off, you go into your tool shelf, and under this shading part right here, it's set to flat by default. You just change that to smooth, and it rounds it out.
What was the one? Oh, the tools.
If you hit T and to have your tool shelf open, under the tool, this shelf right here, you hit smooth under shading right here. There we go. I want to get a little precise about putting this on top of the desk. So one thing I can do is hit Control-Alt-Q, and this will open up this four-way view where I can zoom in on each of these individually from different angles. And I can just make sure I can just drop it on exactly on top of this desk. Did you raise your hand?
Control-Alt-Q, what was that?
Yeah, Control-Alt-Q.
I did that and it said, do you want to exit?
You might have, that might be a Mac thing.
I was doing command.
Oh, okay, yeah.
How do we recenter the camera to the middle? Like the
You hit Shift-C. And make sure you have your mouse over the viewport you want to change, because whatever, it's context sensitive based on where your mouse is. So if you have your mouse over, say, the front orthographic view and I go off into space, if I move the mouse to the user preferences, user perspective, not preferences, I'm sorry, and hit Shift-C, it doesn't do anything to the right orthographic because it wants the mouse over that to move that. Because it tries not to mess up things that you don't want to move. Hi, Stephanie.
well, I'm building a room now.
That's fine. I'm going to get fancy and give it some walls.
I'm doing that too for mine.
Huh.
I made fillers.
Nice.
Oh, I do need to build a computer room. Oh, shoot. Oh, right. No.
You okay?
Yeah, I pressed button and it went all over the place.
Oh. Did you get out of it?
Yeah, I'll leave.
Okay.
I'll leave one undo it. Okay, how do you select all of them?
You tap A, and that should deselect whatever you have. And then tap A again. That will select everything.
Alright, so
1 second.
Alright.
Okay, I'm sorry. What was the question?
How do you make a hole?
A hole.
Like it, yeah. Like you want, like you have like the model or made out, like then you want to make a little hole into it.
We will get into that.
Yeah.
That is after this basic navigation section.
Alright.
Getting ahead of the class.
Sometimes I do that.
That's fine.
See. I think the mouse will start up and down too. Alright.
Got my little cubicle going on.
Okay. Actually, no. How do you select multiple items but not all of them?
To do that, you just hold down the shift key and select the items you want.
So you have to select them within in it.
In addition to the viewport, you can also select things inside of your outliner right here on the right side.
Oh.
So if you click these, that's why it's a good idea to name your objects as you create them. So it does, you don't want it to say cube 1 to cube 113 or whatever.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna,
Ours way like.
you can double click these to change their name. So I'm gonna rename this to floor. I'm giving these very bad names. This is not a good naming convention.
Yeah, don't worry. I've made my hallway.
Sweet.
We'll have a hole now.
Keep adding on to this. I'm gonna personally add a chair to mine, so people have a place to sit. You can, if you have multiple objects selected, you can duplicate them at the same time. So when I have these two legs like this, I have them selected. I just hit Shift D, move them along the x-axis, and just plop them on the other side of the chair seat. Overshot them a little bit.
Select more, multiple ones.
I'm sorry?
You said the shift clicking, right?
Yeah, Shift right click.
Oh, right click.
Yes.
Oh.
Can you open the transform, or yeah, the transform window?
N? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
I overshot that a little, so I'm going to move it back in the X a little bit. Boom. Need a back to the chair. I don't want to sit on no stool like a peasant.
Yeah, no fool.
Mm-hmm. What was that?
Then you use right click instead of left click.
Yeah, you right click to select things. And if you left click, that's going to move your 3D cursor around, so just hit Shift C to recenter it. Boom. Let's say I'm happy with my creation here. It's usually a good idea to save your work as you go. To save in Blender, same as any other program, you can just hit Command S or just go File Save or Save As. And drop your file. For now, we're just going to drop it on the desktop and going to name this My Office. .blend is the default format for Blender, and hit Save as Blender file. That way, if you want to go back to that or your program crashes while you're working, you have it saved at this point. It's in the default objects. Some programs have teapots. Blender has a monkey head.
That's funny.
Do you need help? Or? Oh, you didn't get down. You came in late. That's right.
Yeah.
Go to open a Firefox. Just put the right there. Just type Firefox. Yep. Just hit continue or whatever.
I think it's blind.
Click whatever. Just get rid of the window. Either of these. Go to blender.org. Click download. Scroll down to and click 64-bit Mac OS X. And open that. Everyone good? I like it. All good? You want to select the face? Okay, well, this is getting ahead, but if you want to do that, you click Tab. Well, we select it, hit Tab, and then you can select, you can hit Shift Tab to change the mode. We're going to get into this, like, after everyone's got comfortable.
How'd you get the 3D planes? Like I created planes in your class.
My 3D planes are just boxes.
Okay, so
So
how do you manipulate the boxes? And is there any easy way to select them then? Because when you put them like this,
Left shift.
like you're just selecting them that way.
You have to right click instead of left click.
When I right click, it seems to do the same.
Oh, you don't have your mouse set up. Go to settings, right down there, and change that to secondary button. If anyone else is having a mouse problem, it might be a problem with your settings, so make sure you're good with that.
And then how do you manipulate the object? To make it skinnier.
Use that. All I did with those is scale and rotate and move them. So hit S,
So you scale it.
and then you can tap Y to scale it and move just the Y axis.
Oh, and then but then how do you make it like?
It's just scaling. Scale.
Because it seems like it has like a shift sort of thing where it.
You moved it to a weird pattern. It's okay. Tap N to go into the properties. And so this is just your rotation is right there. Right click on one of those. And let's see, there should be set all to default values or set all to reset all default values right there.
So
It's easier if you you just hit Shift C, and then it's best if you angle it so that it's so you can see everything. Now you get when you your scaling. If you want it to all flatten in the y-axis, just hit 1.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And then you can do that for any axis. So all I did was flatten it in 1, extend it in the other 2, and then moved it to the end of the plane. You good, Tim? Right here. Cool. So if you have an object that you've rotated in a weird way, like say I've got this and I've thrown it around, I don't know where, I just want to reset it back to how it was. Under your property panel, under the N key, you have the location, rotation, and scale, the properties. All you have to do is right click in any of these and hit reset all to default values. And if you did it in rotation, it'll set it back straight. And you can do the same in scale, and it'll set it back to its default size. I'm going to grab some water. I'm going to be right back. How are you doing? Do you need any help? Okay. Okay. We'll move on to the next section in a second. I'm sorry?
I have to go right now.
Oh, that's fine. So I've got my really simple office right here. But these are all made out of default objects, which when you make something that you want in a game, you're not going to build it like this. These are, you're hopefully you make something out of more than just boxes thrown together. So if I want to make something that's more custom, I'm going to have to go in and edit the actual components of an object. So we've got our office. I'm going to hide all this, I'm going to go to this little box right here and just make a new layer. Just click on this box. Everything's hidden now. It's all still there. You can click on the original box to bring it back, but it just gets it out of our way so we don't have to have things blocking our view. To start out with, I'm going to create a new cube. And I'm going to make it into a wine glass to put on the desk. Maybe whoever's working there has a drinking problem. I don't know. To edit this, have it selected. And I'm going to tap the Tab key. And this brings you inside the object. So you can select individual vertices by default. If you want to select edges, you're going to hit Shift Tab. I'm sorry, Control Tab. And then you'll get this pop-up menu showing you other options. So I'm going to click Edge. That will give me the option to click different edges on this, and I can move them independently, messing around with the shape, so you don't just have a default cube. Going to Control Z back to the original. Then Control Tab to face. You can select individual faces and move that whole part of it. Control Z back to the original. To make this into a wine glass, I'm going to need more sides than just the square, because a wine glass is more of a cylindrical shape. We can change this into a cylinder shape by adding more edges to it. So I'm going to Control Tab to Edge, and to add more faces, or faces and edges, I'm going to hit Command R, Control R, hit Control R, and that'll give you this pink outline. Yes?
He does Control Tab, but it's not showing the options.
Goes to brush.
Okay. Yeah, you're going into the brush painter. Hit Tab first, and then Control Tab. Because if you're not in, I'll show everyone. I'm just going to cancel out of this real fast. So the problem they were having over there is if you're not in the object editing mode, if you're just in this scene mode and you try to hit Control Tab, that's going to change you to the vertex painting mode. This is more for when we get to rigging in Workshop 3. We're not there yet. So just hit Control Tab to get out of that again, or there's this little box right here at the bottom of the screen. You click that, and you can change what mode you want to go to. We're going to go back to object mode, and then tab to access edit mode, or you can just select edit mode in this drop-down. Going back to my edge mode, I'm going to hit Control R and just plop one of these right down here. Right click to center it, and now your cube has an extra slice through it. So if I can move different parts of it now, and I have these pieces of it that did not exist before. Control Z back to the original, and I'm going to do another one perpendicular to that. Right click to center it, and now I have 8 lines on this cube instead of 4. So I'm going to right click on each of these to select the ones in the middle. So you should have 4 of them selected. I want to round this out to a more cylindrical shape. So to do that, with these 4 selected, just hit S to scale, Shift Z to move an X and Y, and just drag it out. You now have a cylinder. You okay?
I don't want to select the edge.
I think you're left clicking instead of right clicking.
It's always a left.
Is that it?
Yeah, that was probably the great reason.
You might want to hit Shift C to reset your thing. You know what? I think you turned on your snap mode. Yeah, there you go. That was probably messing you up. Are you looking for edge?
I'm trying. Yeah, I can see right here.
Yeah, then right click. you remember what I said about creating new edges?
No, I didn't get that part.
Okay.
I didn't look. I was looking up on this part.
It's fine. Right click out of that or hit Command Z. Command Z again. Yep. And then hit Control R.
Part.
Yep.
There you go.
And then you'll want two perpendicular lines going down the top of it. Right click to center it. Hit Command Z to just undo it. Try again. It takes practice. This is why I'm having you guys do the intro thing, so that way you can just get used to clicking around it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Okay.
Alright. What was that?
I was wondering, is there a way to make it curvy, like curvy way, or is it gonna be like it's all edge line?
We can get to curves a little more down the line. I'm just trying to show you guys how to do basic edits of it.
Alright.
Anyone need help? Just playing around? Do you need any help? Okay. Well, you're at a good point for where we are right now, so just, I would hit Shift C to recenter everything. Delete the cube. Just hit X, yep. And hit Shift A to make a new one. And now to get into edit mode, press Tab. Now hit Shift Tab to change the edit mode. I'm sorry, Shift Tab is wrong. Control Tab. I don't know why I keep saying Shift Tab. And select Edge. Now hit Command R, Control R. Hit Control R. And drag it over the middle of that. Click and then right. And then do the same thing for this edge.
Okay.
Cool. Now if you hold, right click one of those. Try that. Just right click it. On the edge. You have to be, your mouse has to be like right on it. Right click. Is your mouse not set? Go to properties. I thought we did this. Mouse. Yeah, change that to secondary button. And that should be button 3. Cool. It's always up. Yeah, there you go, Ned. Rotate around and hold Shift and click all the outer facing ones. You're not even part of this class.
Art. Yes.
You good?
I didn't know which axis we used to make the cylinder, but I understood the mechanics of I did it, just not that.
Okay. Do you want to set it up like that, or are you good? You're just playing with it?
Did you do 2? Let's see. I did 2.
You got that. And then hit Control R again. And click right there.
Oh, so.
And right click. Yeah.
Okay, and then scan up. See that? How's that?
So just right click out of that. Press A to unselect everything. And then select one of those.
Okay. Oh.
want to delete it.
Okay.
And then I'll just do a command Z to select that. No problem. Y'all good? You're not a part of this, I'll say this.
You're doing such a great job.
I'm trying. I'll delete this and go over it one more time. Boom. So I've got this blank screen right here. Gonna Shift A to create mesh cube. Gonna tap tab to go into edit mode. Control tab to select the edge mode. So I have individual edges selected. Press A to deselect those. Then I hit Control R to add an edge loop. That's what that's called, an edge loop, when you create new edges. And then do one right here, or right click to center it. Do one on the other side, right click to center it. So I've got these new edges created. Tap A to deselect them. Right click on the front side of each face while holding Shift to select all 4 of the newly created edges. Then I scale them out by pressing S, and then you don't want it to do this, so Shift Z to turn off the Z axis and move it just in X and Y, and drag it into a cylinder shape. Everyone good? I'm going to start with the cup of the flute glass. So I want to hit Control Tab and select face mode. Right click on the top 4 faces and just press G and Z to drag it up. Make it about this size. That feels about right. So I want to create the cut part of this. So I'm going to start with the lip. To create that, I'm going to hit E. This is the E key for extrusion. And that adds more faces on top of where you have it. I'm going to right click so it doesn't move any higher. It's just more faces on top of where it was. And then I scale that inside to create the start of the lip. So you have this new edge here. I'm going to reselect these 4 faces in the center. Then I'm going to do another extrusion, E. First I'm going to press Z to turn on the transparency. I'm going to press E and then drag the mouse downward. So you create the inside of the glass. So you have the start of a functional cup here. I'm going to do all that again, just for practice. Get rid of that. Hit Shift A to make my cube. Turn it into a cylinder. So I've got my cylinder. Gonna stretch it out bigger by just dragging these faces. With the top part selected, tap E to extrude. Right click to flatten it, and then scale it inward to create the lip. Tap E again to do another extrusion, and then just drag it into the cup. Oops. So does yours look like this right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have these 4 selected. Tap the E key for extruding.
Oh yeah, and then I brought it up.
Okay, and then right click to flatten it out.
Uh-huh.
And now press S to scale it inward.
S. Oh,
You got it?
it's like making it more faceted so that
What's that?
it's like just making facets.
Yes. Making new facets,
Oh, and then
new
is it on
faces.
the y-axis right now?
So when I press the scaling on this, I'm not tapping anything extra, just because this is just a face, so it's just a 2D plane. So it's already going the direction I want it to go. I don't have to do anything extra with it.
You said it was S that did that?
I'm coming over.
So that's a good edges.
And then
You got a lot of extra thing there.
yeah.
I'm gonna do it again.
Okay.
See? We'll have you just start it again.
Q,
Right.
and tab hit, oh no, tab hit, and then R. The first one. Wait, how do you spell it? R.
Something disappeared. Did you just cancel it? Yeah, it looked like it. So just try it again.
So remove there,
Mhm.
and then what's next? Wait,
You wanna, you're gonna wanna first unselect those extra pieces you have selected. So how do you? That's one way to do it. If you just right click on something else, it'll select whatever you have mouse over.
Okay, so.
So you could start with one of those edges that you want selected.
Oh yeah, I want to. Oh, okay, and then I'm. Yeah. I was trying to select the axes that I made on the.
You can do X and Y at the same time.
How do you do X and Y?
So you know the one axis you don't want selected, right? I'm trying to get you to figure it out. It'll say
Well, I
you
want
know.
X and Y, but I don't want it to go up.
Right? That is the Z axis.
Oh, it's right. So how do I unselect Z?
So you just hit Shift
Shift Z?
and then select the axis you don't want.
Oh, shift and then Z.
Yep. Well, you can try to like pick it up as you go along. Like I mean, I would recommend trying. Like just grab a computer and we can get you down there.
Yeah, sure. Was this one still very easy name?
No, there was. Oh wait, the VR thing is happening right now. If you wanted to do that
Where's that?
in the library, I think they're in one of the rooms. Yeah, we had to like. It was limited what time people were free, so we had to. They had to like.
I guess I like the schedule change that they were gonna be over here. But they're in the library.
Yeah.
Like the first floor.
I'm not sure what floor they're on. So if you like, it has to be one of the first 3 floors. Like with the.
This would be our last day, right? Is that what you're saying?
It's just one of the group rooms. It's not like a lab or VR.
That's just a good question.
Yeah. So if you just look in one of the, you'll see them there somewhere.
Yeah, I'll find out.
I can ask them. And see if they'll respond. Yeah, I'm running workshop.
No need that.
Everyone's catching up, so
Okay.
give them some time. Jessica and Deborah were pitching our game group that we're doing, like just so that we could just use the project we're already doing. So that was our plan.
That's a platform you guys are working on.
Yes.
I think you just see oh, it's just an environment. So
It's just an environment. Oh no, we're not doing a VR game. We're just gonna recycle the environments we're making anyway.
right. That's cool though. That'll save us a lot of time.
Cool. So I'll give them like 5 minutes to respond.
That's good.
Oh, go ahead. You good? Need help? Okay, so you're selecting edges, and at this point, it's good that you got this far. You're gonna want to select those top faces now. So to do that, hit Control Tab and select face. And then, oh, looks like you have those. You already started those. Because you can see from the, since there's a vertice right there in the center, it means there's another face on top of it. So just go ahead and select those 4. Right click and hold shift. And then just drag it upward by hitting G and then Z.
Is Blender not doing Maya?
Just tap it, you don't have to hold it. It's got a different workflow to it. The way you would do things in Maya, it's like the same process, but the way to get there is different, if that makes sense.
But Blender's free though.
Yeah. Main advantage.
Is it already installed on the CD?
No, you have. I wrote the URL on the board. You have to download it for OS X.
Oh, it's actually.
I don't know the way to. Ah, there we go. That's how you make multiple.
You good? Yeah, you can scroll the wheel and then
So,
I'll come back to you.
when I'm in this mode, these modes, how do I just go back to the regular mode so I can move the whole thing?
All you do is tap tab again. And then when you were in the vertex painting, so just click the white paint right there and click object mode. Yep. Okay, you're good. You right there. Tap G and then tap C. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. You were in the good mode. Just tap G and go back to where you were. Is it working? Oh, now tap Z. And drag it up. Something's off. It's not what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, let me got snapping turned on.
Yeah, that's what I thought. How did you turn that on?
This little magnet right here, when that's colored, that means it's on. So click it, turns off. The way you accidentally turn that on is when you hit Shift Tab, like I kept accidentally telling you guys, because it's really close to each other. The Shift Tab turns snapping on and off, and then so that's off. And then Control Tab does what you want with the changing the selection mode. Mm-hmm. You got started.
Did, yeah. Okay, good job. Is there would be click?
At this point, sure. I mean, we've already covered how to like rotate, scale, and move things. If you could middle click to drag the thing up the viewport around. Oh, you need to set your preferences. Let me see it. Because Mac has weird defaults. So go to mouse. Make sure you have primary button on the left side, secondary button on the right, button 3 on the middle. And then I like to turn up the tracking speed, and I'll leave that up to you. But now you hold the middle mouse button to scale around it.
By the way, do these have styluses?
You have to bring your own.
Oh, okay.
School doesn't provide them, sorry. And what we have up here, to edit that, just hit Tab. And then hit Control Tab. That lets you select what kind of mode you want. So hit Edge. And to make those extra sides, hit Control R. And click the this edge right here to create. You created one in the middle. What you want is it to go across the top, because that's where we're splitting it. So hit Control Z. I'll hit Control R again. That's the edge loop command. And right there.
So the purple.
Yes, that's the purple line is the preview. Just left click. And now right click to place it in the center. Do the same, but create one that's perpendicular to that.
So control R,
Uh-huh.
and then left click, and then
Yeah, but you wanted it across the top.
oh, okay. So control R, click, just like that.
Yep. And hit A to deselect everything. And then right click one of the newly created edges on the sides. When you left click, that's your 3D cursor. That's the basic thing it does is that's where it creates new objects. Usually you want it to just stay in the center, so hit Shift C to recenter it. Cool. Oh, let me do something real fast for you. Yeah. What I had them do at the start was just delete the default objects because you don't really need them. And then when you hit Shift C, part of what that does is it centers like where the center point of everything in the scene. So if you get rid of those extra objects, it won't throw you off.
Okay. I see what it is. So it's like you have two objects and just going to the middle point to the
What you're gonna want to do is I'll show it to you and then have you do it. Just right click want to hit Shift Z to turn off the Z axis. Oops. You are. I think you hit Control. What is it?
I might not be hitting Command Z. I'm probably hitting. I think I should have seen instead.
Can't remember how to. Okay, well you change the viewport shading mode, so just set that back to solid. There you go. So you want to do. Once you have them selected, so then you scale them. If you hit Shift Z, created them. Created these extra pieces. I'm not sure how you're doing that. What are you doing? Okay. Well. Okay. I'll leave you to decide what you want to do, but keep playing with it. Good.
Tutorials. Is that on like the Blender website?
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of tutorials. If you search YouTube, there's some on lynda.com. You can find them all over. And I'm trying to record this, so hopefully we can edit it to something coherent.
Sounds good.
So this was going to be a flute glass, so I'm just going to keep going and show you guys what I would do with it.
Alright.
Oops.
I made a bell already. Cool. I like this. Yeah, we did that.
Oh, if you've created a ring, like a edge loop already, and you want to select all the faces on it, all you have to do to that is hit Alt right click, and that selects the entire ring. So you just right clicking selects one face, Alt right clicking selects the entire ring. You can do that with faces too. Right click. You kind of have to do it on the edge, but makes it easier sometimes to just do an edge loop select like this. I'm basically just doing the same process over again. Extrude a new face, scale it in or out, put it where you want it. Just doing this over and over. And I want it to look smoother, so I'm going to hit T and select smooth for the shading. Gives you a slightly smoother lighting appearance. I want to add more edges to smooth it out. So go back into edit mode, Control R, put one right there, scale it out. Maybe do one right here. Boom. Maybe I want this to taper a little, so put one in the middle here. I'll do two of them. So I can do Control R and then just scroll the mouse wheel to increase how many edge loops it creates. So I can do two right in the center. Scale them in just a little bit. So I have a very basic, very low polygon model of a flute glass. I think it's a little stubby, so I just want to go in and extrude it a little more. Just stretch it out. Yes?
So when I create the new edge, it's, you know how there's like the outside edge of the cup and the inside edge?
Uh-huh.
So I'm only making a new outside edge, and so it doesn't change the shape of the entire cup. Does that make sense?
What you have to do with that is also create an edge inside the cup. So you would have to create two edges. It's best if you plot it out so it's the right, you block it out the shape that you want overall, and then you cut out the middle of it. And then that just saves you from having to do extra work like that. So I've got my wine glass right here. Gonna tab out to object mode. Shift click my layer for the office. And this is a big ass wine glass. I don't know if that even exists. So I'm gonna scale it down. Go into Control Alt Q and just place it right next to the monkey head. Boom. I'm going to make a new object. I think I want to make a gear. It's a steampunk office now.
I was gonna go Guild of Wars.
If you want it to be Guild of Wars, sure. So I think for a gear, maybe we would have 16 sides so that it has 8 teeth on it. Easiest way to start it out would be to just go ahead and create a cylinder from the get-go. And I can select how many sides it has here under vertices under your tool shelf. And I'm going to say, give it 16 sides. Boom. Close that out. Shift C to center it. Going to scale it down to make it skinnier. Go into edit mode. So I've already got, since I used a cylinder, I've already got the right number of sides I want. So to extrude out the teeth, I'm going to make sure I have face selected and just go through and select every other face. So I've got every other face selected. I extrude those out by tapping E, but that doesn't work because Blender has different modes where it has different origin points where it extrudes from. And right now, it's acting everything as a group and just moving it all off into space. And that's not working in this case for us. So let me change it. Let's try changing it to individual origins. That's this box right here next to the shaders. Control Z. Make sure it's set back to how it was. It's under individual origins. Now press E. Then you can extrude it outward because it's calculating the direction for each and every face on here. I'll start it again. Shift A. Give myself a cylinder. I'll go straight into edit mode and just scale it down on the inside. Yep. About yay thick. Select every other face. Make sure I'm in individual origins because it won't work like this on the default. So just select this little pivot center option, hit individual origins, then extrude it outward. I'll say about this thick. Maybe hit S, thin them out a little. In everything except the Z-axis, so they become thinner teeth. With the default cylinder, you'll notice this face on the top and bottom. These have 1, 2, 3, 4, however many sides. And in general, this is a bad idea to have when you export it, because when you take this to a game engine, it might not know what to do with this many sides. This is called an n-gon, and you want to avoid these. One way to fix it, we just extrude them out, right-click to flatten them out, scale in everything except Z, just move them in, and then we have it in the center, and now each of these polygons is 4-sided, which is ideal. You want 4 sides on every polygon. And then just hit delete to get rid of those. Delete faces. And now you've got a hole in the center of your gear, which maybe you want because you want to stick it onto a peg or something. The problem with that being is now we have all of these ways inside of the mesh itself, which is best to avoid it. So we're going to want to create new faces that close this gap. To do that, we're going to select opposite sides on the edges here and hit F to fill with a face. And you do that one time for each of these. Just right-click, F, right-click, F. There is a shorter way to do this all at one time, but that takes an extra plugin, and I'm not going to get into that. But there are faster ways to do this, just so you know. And then one more. Try to keep track of it. So I've got a basic, nice gear here. I think I can make it a little fancier. Maybe give it a rim around where the teeth start. So do that. I'm just going to go be in edge mode, hit Control R, give it, we'll say I'll drop an edge loop right here. Then Control Tab to face mode, Alt right click on one of these edges right here around the rim you want. So it selects that entire edge. And then hit E to extrude it, and just drag it out just a tiny bit. So you get a little more detail in your gear right there. I'll do the other side. It doesn't have to match perfectly. Maybe I want it to be a little bit different. Say I'll make it a little bigger on this side. It's a bit harsh of an edge, so if I want to round this out a little, one way I could do that, go to edge mode, select these edges on the outside, got these two right here. Oh, I'm actually going to do 4 of them. I'll do the ones on the bottom and the ones on the top. And then I hit Control B. No, don't do that yet. Something's not right. That's weird. Okay, so it is Control B. Control Z if you did that, just to make sure you didn't mess anything up. Make sure you have all the edges selected. Control B. And then it's really sensitive on this part. Just give it a little bit of a lip. Not too much, because this one's, you drag it a little and it goes really far. And that gives you a little bit of a rounder edge. So I'll throw this into my office. Scale it down a little. And that's the basics of how you box model. It's you pick an object that you want to make. You start out with a box or any other primitive shape, and you start cutting pieces, extruding them, beveling them. Basically just start by blocking it out large and then just carve more pieces out of it. And this gives you very polygon efficient models that you can bring into, if you want to use them for a mobile game, maybe if you want something that'll run on a Raspberry Zero, just any kind of older computer. This gives you very low polygon models. So officially the workshop end time was 6 o'clock, but I will be here till 7 if you guys want to keep playing around. I'll be available to answer any questions. If you want to try to recreate a new object, I'm here. I will be here to help you. So just go at it, have fun, try to play with it, and learn how to use it. So that's all for the workshop itself. Thank you.